This video is sponsored by Storyblocks Video. What's going on, everyone? It's Jack from Nothing But Tech. Hope you guys are all doing well. Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're talking about smartphones, smartphone cameras specifically. I have another camera comparison video for you guys. I know a lot of you like them, so this was a highly requested one. I decided to do it. A lot of people take their photos now on their smartphones. Like, they don't own a DSLR or another camera. Everything they're taking is from a phone that's in their pocket, whether it's selfies, landscapes, pictures with people. You see it everywhere of people taking photos, and the smartphone cameras have become so good now that it's really easy to do that. So I wanted to compare these two phones. They both have some of the best smartphone cameras on the market, but there's also a giant price gap in between them, so I thought that this would be a really interesting comparison. So looking at our first image, the characteristics of both cameras come through. So the Pixel 3a tends to go to a much bluer tone than the Samsung Galaxy S10 and most other phones on the market. And the Samsung Galaxy S10 often makes the image a little brighter. So if it's gonna do anything, it's gonna overexpose the highlights. And you can see that in this shot of the windows. So the Pixel 3a has a very blue tone in the windows, and the S10 Plus looks almost like a little bit too bright. Both of these things can be edited in a software, but right out of camera, that's what you're getting. I shot both of these in auto mode. In terms of contrast, the Pixel 3a definitely added a lot more contrast than the S10 Plus did, especially in the trees. It also looks like they both added a little bit of sharpening, especially in like the bricks. It looks a little bit overdone on the Pixel 3a. It's really personal preference, though, and a lot of the stuff I'm going to be saying in this video is just that, personal preference. But in this shot, I would say that the Pixel 3a probably grabs your attention more than the S10 Plus does, but I feel like you need to tone down the sharpness a little bit. I then went over to a tree and took a picture of the leaves to see detail, but also coloration of the tree. Big difference here, the S10 Plus makes the tree a lot more green than the Pixel 3a does, and the Pixel 3a definitely goes to a more like purplish blue tone on the tree. Neither of them are completely accurate. It looked a little bit less blue than the Pixel 3a is making it out to be, but I would say that the S10 Plus looks a lot less accurate. In terms of detail and stuff, they both have a lot of detail in the leaf. The Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus has a second lens, so you can zoom in and get a second angle. The Pixel 3a only has that one camera, so you can't do that. But Google has some smart features where it will use your handshake to kind of digitally zoom in. So when I did that, I was able to get a pretty good image. The S10 Plus looks sharper to me, obviously, and having that flexibility of that second lens is really prominent here. Also, the S10 Plus has a wide angle lens, something that you just cannot replicate on a Pixel 3a because it only has that one camera, and I'm able to use that to get really nice like landscape photos. Also, I'm able to use it like if I'm in a tight environment and I need to get everything in the shot. So it does come in handy a lot of the time. Whereas on the Pixel 3a, you just don't have that feature, and it does a really nice job compensating for the zooming in, but the wide angle lens just cannot be replicated, as I've already said. But otherwise, in this image, it did a pretty nice job. When I switch over to a portrait shot of myself, this feature has become a lot more used among general consumers, and it's also become a lot better. The Samsung Galaxy S10 uses its normal lens at a wider angle, so this shot ends up being a little wider. It almost looks like a little distorted because of that, and the Pixel 3a zooms in even though it only has one lens, kind of like what we're more used to seeing like on a DSLR or something with a typical portrait. Taken out on the street, you could definitely see that it's much closer on the Pixel 3a, and I took them from standing in the exact same place. So in terms of actual edge detection, I think the S10 Plus did a little bit better here. When I look at my hair on the Pixel 3a, it looks a little bit rough on the right side, and the S10 Plus doesn't really have that, but it looks a little distorted. Like, I look a lot shorter in this photo than I actually am. We were also like taking it downhill, but I feel like because the Pixel 3a is cropped differently, it doesn't look as much like that. Also, the Pixel 3a gives me less of a white, like palish skin tone, whereas the S10 Plus overexposes just like a little bit, or not even really overexposes, but it makes my skin look a lot like whiter and paler, whereas on the Pixel 3a, it looks like I have like a little bit of like a tan almost. I did another portrait shot, and again, the S10 Plus did better with edge detection when compared to the Pixel 3a, but I think the Pixel 3a has a little bit of a better skin tone. Also, the S10 Plus adds a beauty filter. Even when you turn it off, it's still there. Like, no matter what, it always tries to like smooth out your skin. And the Pixel 3a kind of over sharpens my skin, so it's kind of like this weird combination where neither of them are like that accurate on my face. That's just something to note. The S10 Plus definitely makes the face very soft even when you don't have any feature turned on. I took a photo of a fountain. The S10 Plus retains a little bit more detail in the actual tiles in the back, so you can kind of see the lines in them, whereas in the Pixel 3a it's like completely blown out. And the Pixel 3a makes the water a little bit more blue, on the actual fountain. They both did a pretty good job capturing the motion, but I think that the Pixel 3a did a little bit better. It kind of like stopped it, whereas the shutter speed must have been lower in the S10 Plus because it's definitely a little bit more blurry. I then switched over to video mode of that same fountain, and you can see again that it's very blue, but they both actually blew out the background in the video. I think that the Pixel 3a video maybe looks a little bit more appealing, but again, it's a preference thing of what color tone you prefer. In terms of stabilization, they both look pretty similar in the shot. And then I also took a walking shot just to see how that would look. And again, stabilization on both looks pretty good. The sharpness on the Pixel 3a, it definitely is pretty sharpened. And so is the S10 Plus, but the S10 Plus, I think, adds a little more saturation than the Pixel 3a, and the Pixel 3a adds a little bit more contrast. They both look pretty good though, and stabilization was actually pretty impressive on both of these. I'm happy with either of these videos. The Pixel 3a doesn't have great audio quality, so you definitely would notice that, but I think in terms of just like sheer image quality, the video looks pretty good. And now a word from our sponsor. If you've ever needed B-roll, an After Effects template, or a video motion background for a project, Storyblocks Video is really useful. I've used it on several projects, including a vlog I did a while back where I needed some footage to bridge what I was talking about. I was in Europe and I wanted to take myself from the restaurant back to the hotel room, and I didn't want it to be a really rough cut. So I just used the footage of nighttime, I think it was in Rome, and it perfectly smoothly transitioned. Also, the budget on Storyblocks is really, really good. So a lot of times it's really hard to license footage because it's so expensive, but Storyblocks makes it really affordable and accessible to everyone. So I'm able to use it on a project and get really high quality clips, so I can keep the quality the same without spending a ton of money to get the clip. And there's unlimited downloads, so anything in the video member library is yours to download, and as much as you want, including the HD or the 4K footage, After Effects templates, motion backgrounds, and that comes when you sign up for the unlimited video plan. New clips are added all the time, so there's always a fresh look, and I was actually able to use some of their clips in this video in the intro, and you could see how high quality they were. There's professionals taking these clips, so you're not going to sacrifice quality by using them. In some cases, you can actually up your quality and get a shot that you couldn't before. So I want to thank them so much for sponsoring this video. If you want to check them out, go to storybox.com/nothingbutTech. I've been using their service for years, so it was actually awesome when they reached out and wanted to do something together. Highly recommended. If you do use their service, definitely let me know and send me a link to the project that you use them in. I would love to check it out. But let's dive back into some more samples. Pixel 3a in this photo, it was not taken in portrait mode, but the focus is definitely very different. It only focuses on the tip of the flower, and then the rest of it is very out of focus. And it almost looks like a little bit, almost like overdone or like fake, whereas the S10 Plus keeps more of it in focus, and it also makes the green in the background a lot more vibrant. I definitely prefer the S10 Plus's photo in this scenario. When I switched over to taking a photo of a really luxurious, expensive car, the S10 Plus looks almost a little fake in terms of how it saturated the yellow, but they both look pretty good otherwise. They also had a little trouble with the sun reflecting right off of the windshield. The Pixel 3a also really sharpened the gravel, but I think there's something kind of appealing about that. What I would say is that the Pixel 3a makes the photos really edited. Like, it goes into the editor for you and does what it thinks looks best. And sometimes that works out really well, and other times it's overdone and it's over sharpened. But I think for the most part, it does a pretty good job. And for the general consumer that doesn't necessarily know how to edit, it kind of takes that step out of the process where you can just hit that upload button. Whereas in the S10 Plus, I find myself a lot of times wanting to edit it a little bit, like bring down the exposure a little bit and make the blacks a little bit more prominent, which is kind of nice that you have that flexibility because it doesn't overdo it in camera. Whereas the Pixel 3a, just like out of camera, looks a little bit nicer and a little bit more like sharp and punchy and that contrasty like street look, which I kind of like. And you can kind of see that again in this detail shot of a tree trunk. First of all, the first thing you're probably noticing is how radically different the color tone is. For some reason, the S10 makes the trees like extremely green when they're just not at all, but they both added a lot of detail into that crack in the actual tree. And I think I prefer the Pixel 3a photo here, which I'm finding I'm saying a lot, and it's significantly cheaper, but we all kind of know that Pixels have some of the best cameras on the market. The Samsung camera for me personally excels in getting that wide angle and also in getting a less contrasty image a lot of the time. But the Pixel 3a sometimes just gives a nicer image out of camera, and that's seen in this photo. I took another photo of me, not in portrait mode, just regular, and the Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus overexposed my entire neck and face in this photo, so that was kind of interesting, whereas the Pixel 3a went to a much cooler tone and also exposed me a lot better. I would prefer the Pixel 3a in this case. On the street shot without the portrait mode on, I think that the S10 Plus looks a little bit nicer. They both look pretty sharp. The Pixel 3a added a lot of contrast in my hair, so it made it look a little darker than it actually is. The final shot of this comparison is a really hard test. It's for dynamic range. So I shot it behind a tree looking directly into the sun and the sky. And the results are kind of interesting. The Pixel 3a, like, kind of ruined all detail that you could possibly get in the branches, but it really preserved the sky in a nice way. Whereas the S10 Plus has a little bit more detail in the branches, but the sky is a little bit brighter. The Pixel 3a also added some sharpness to the windows that is not as prevalent on the S10 Plus, and I think that it makes it look a little almost artificial. And then when you look at the lawn on the bottom, there's almost no detail, and it kind of like blacked it out and added a really dark shadow, whereas you can still kind of see the detail in the grass on the S10 Plus. And I feel like this image is a good one to end on because it kind of shows the differences between the two cameras, where the Pixel 3a adds a lot of contrast in. At first you look at it and it's like the image that catches your attention, whereas the S10 Plus is definitely a brighter image and it preserves more detail in the lawn and in the branches, so it's probably an easier image if you give it a little bit more work. If you want an image that looks great right out of camera, the Pixel 3a is probably the pick, but if you want an image that you have a little bit more flexibility editing, the S10 Plus oftentimes is that image for you. A final thought on the two cameras is that the Pixel 3a has superior low light photos. It just does amazing with night sight. And I showed that off in another comparison video that I did, so if you want to see more low light tests, check out that comparison video, link in the description below. But thank you guys for watching this video. This is a really fun comparison video to make. They also take a really long time to edit, so if you enjoyed it, I would appreciate a thumbs up. Check out our sponsor, Storyblocks Video. Thank you again to them for sponsoring this video. I love their service, and I really think it's a great service for you guys to check out. So linked below. Also, subscribe right here, check out another video right here, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye.